Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at all mythic brawlers in the game right now, all 23 of them, and rank them from the very worst all the way up to the very best to help you guys decide on which brawlers to pick on the star road. When it's a difficult choice, at least you can relate to this list. And I can't believe there is 23 mythic brawlers now. Maybe there's going to be a new rarity in the future, because that feels like a lot for such a rarity. But let's just go ahead and get on with things then. So, to begin with, the worst mythic in the game and one of the worst brawlers in the game right now, it has to be Doug. Do I even need to explain about this brawler? He's really good at low trophies, so if you're a person that don't push above 700 trophies, then go for it, because he's actually pretty decent at low level. But everywhere else he's completely trash, and it's just not worthwhile even unlocking. So coming in at number 22, we have Willow, so the second worst mythic brawler in the game right now. I think Willow was pretty underrated a couple of months ago, because there were quite a few maps which used to really pop off on, but they were removed, and for me she just gets destroyed so easily by any type of aggression, and she has to be one of the hardest brawlers to push right now. Next up at number 21, we have Sprout. So Sprout is actually a really good brawler when it comes down to Power League, but I think most people play a lot of ladder, and Sprout is terrible in ladder, so bad. I would say one of the bottom 5 brawlers when it comes down to ladder right now, because it's just impossible to push him. There's just lots of fangs, egg guards, all of its aggression, and Sprout just can't keep up with it at the moment. His kit is so limited, and for that reason I think he has to be one of the worst brawlers to unlock right now. So next up at number 20, we have Byron. So he's actually one of my favorite brawlers in the game, so if you like that kind of healing slash sniper gameplay, then Byron definitely is near the top of the fun rating for me personally. But when it comes down to the competitive meta, he's right at the bottom. I never ever see him, mainly because he's so squishy and just can't keep up with all this fast-paced action, and even on passive maps there's just much better options. So for me, Byron has to be one of the worst mythics for sure. So next up at number 19, we have Max. So Max used to always be the super versatile pick. Right now she's just okay everywhere. The right Max can definitely make good plays with good teammates, but more often than not it's really hard to pop off with Max, especially in this type of meta. So for me, she's one of the worst mythics to unlock right now. So next up at number 18, we have Mortis. So in terms of fun factor, he's actually pretty much at the top of the list. So of course, you playing a video game, you want to have the most fun, so unlock Mortis if you're looking for that. But if you're looking pure competitive side, then Mortis is actually one of the worst mythics, just because there's so many different brawlers that counter him so easily. But he is a really good pick when it comes down to knockout and bounty, also gem grab as well, but it does take a lot of concentration to pop off with Mortis, so I'd rather just probably unlock a more safer brawler. So next up at number 17, we have Ruff. So he used to always be the go-to pick for me, but as months has gone on, as Hypercharge has been introduced, Ruffs has really just fallen off in the rankings. Again, he just doesn't have the DPS to keep up. He's a support brawler, and very rarely is he the go-to pick, because just so many tanks overpower him right now. But he's an okay pick, especially for like sport brawlers. So you like brawlers like Rico, like me, and Ruffs can be pretty fun. Next up at number 16, we have Gene. So one of my favorite brawlers, and unfortunately he is one of the worst brawlers in the game in my opinion. I think he's really fallen off in terms of the meta. He doesn't have the reload speed to keep up. He is a pretty strong pick when it comes down to knockout bounty, but I think his pull is quite predictable nowadays. There's so many gadgets that can tank his pull. He is pretty decent paired with other aggressive brawlers to get that extra healing, and he's good with the vision gear. But other than that, I think he really sucks in this meta. So next up at number 15, we have Mr. P. So again, he's a brawler that you can only really use on knockout and bounty, because the common theme is here, you're trying to escape all these tanky hypercharged brawlers. If you play Mr. P in Brawl, he's like the worst brawler in the game, but he is really easy to use. His super is really annoying, so if you're just looking for a really skillless character to use, and Mr. P can be that brawler. Next up at number 14, we have Buzz. So Buzz has came a little bit back in the meta since his buff. He's got a big HP buff. I think before this buff, I would have put him right near the bottom, like probably literally near Sprout. But I think he's been secretly climbing it up. He's in no way like a competitive pick, but at least he's really fun, right? That's one thing I really like about Buzz. And just overall, you can make those pop-off plays. He's that carry type of brawler, so for me, he's worthwhile unlock. Next up at number 13, we have Chuck. So he's a pretty hard brawler to pick up and play. It took me a while when I unlocked him to really figure out his mechanics, but if you're looking for a brawler to easily push in one game mode in particular, like Heist, then Chuck is your go-to brawler. He's one of the most free rank 30s in that game mode. But outside of that, he's pretty hard to play, really awkward in my opinion. And I don't know, some people don't find him fun because he's just so awkward a lot of the time, just because of his super. But at the same time, he's one of the, I would say, one of the most unique brawlers in the game, so can be fun in that sense. Next up at number 12, we have Squeak. So I was kind of unsure where to put Squeak because I'm not really seeing him at all in Power League right now, but I still feel like he's a powerful pick, especially a late pick. His residue gadget is still one of the best in the game. It's just, again, you've got to kind of avoid those game modes where you're going to see a lot of aggression because, of course, Squeak gets countered by all of those balls, jackies, etc. But I still feel like he has a good place in like Hot Zone and other scenarios as well. He's just a decent pick overall. So next up at number 11, we have Tara. So Tara's just pretty good in the meta. I think she's started to drift off a bit because she used to be able to shred through tanks, but now they've got that hypercharged stat boost. It can be pretty hard sometimes to deal with them, but still, she's a good pick in Heist, good pick in Gem Grab and Brawl as well, and just fairly consistent across the board, but often I think she's pretty forgotten. So now moving into the best 10 mythic brawlers in the game right now, starting off with Janet. So Janet, I've been starting to see a lot more right now. I'm seeing her more at the top end of Power League, which is pretty surprising because I don't think the buffs did too much to her, but I think she's just super versatile. That's always been a good thing about Janet. You can go in pretty much every single game mode outside of Heist. She's really good at scouting the grass with her gadget, and just overall a pretty safe pick. Next up as the 9th best mythic brawler in the game right now, we have Busters. So the nerf to his gadget actually did a lot more than I think. Even though they just removed the slow effects, I think it really did hurt him, but a good Buster player can definitely make a lot of things happen on the map. I just think as well, sometimes the maps that he used to be good in, especially Brawl, have been removed, so you know, other tanks can just dominate him, but still he's a pretty decent pick, and if you can get the right setup, he can dominate with his super. The next up as the 8th best mythic brawler in the game right now, I went with Eve. So you can't just pick up and play Eve everywhere, it won't work, but there's quite a few maps in the Power League rotation where Eve will dominate. Of course, any map with any water tiles, you know, I'm talking bridge too far, safe zone, etc, etc, and she's one of the go-to options for that reason alone. She's just good into pretty much everything in that sense. She can deal with long range, she's good at just feeding a super from tanks as well. Pretty safe pick overall. Next up as the 7th best mythic brawler in the game right now, I went with RTs. So you can never go wrong with drafting RT in Power League or just playing him in general. He's super safe, good against snipers, good against tanks with his super. Overall, he's just Mr. Versatile. There's not really any clear counters to RT as well, which is why I always love playing him. Of course, he's going to be better on bounty and knockout, but you can easily play him, especially with his super in Brawl, Gem Grab, etc. So I just love RT pretty much all of the time. So next up is the 6th best mythic brawler in the game right now. I went with Otis. So I don't play Otis too much because he's a pretty boring brawler to play, in my opinion, but he's just Mr. Versatile right now. And you take a look at the top brawlers in the game right now, like Fang, he's one of the best shutdowns to those brawlers, and I just think you can never go wrong with going Otis. You know, he's a brawler that shuts down so many aggressive ideas. With so many hypercharges in the game right now, his super is actually one of the best answers to it because he can waste a lot of their hypercharge duration, and for that reason, I think he's creeping back into the meta. Next up is the 5th best mythic brawler to unlock right now. We have Lou. So I think the Lou nerf did really hurt him. I'm hardly seeing him at all in Power League, but I think in ladder you can always go Lou. It's so safe to go him because you're guaranteed pretty much to face any type of tank, and you can just farm your first super from that tank, and then you can just start chaining. It's always about getting that first super with Lou, and then you can build up your hypercharge, and then the hypercharge just deletes everyone. So he's still really good in Hot Zone still. Is one brawler that I definitely recommend unlocking. Next up is the 4th best mythic brawler to unlock right now. I went with Gray. So I know, again, you can't just pick up and play Gray everywhere. He's more of a Power League brawler in the sense of like knockout, bounty, Hot Zone. He can pair really well with aggressive ideas as well, but his low DPS means he just cannot play him in Brawl right now. That's kind of a common theme with a lot of these brawlers, right? But yeah, Gray in particular definitely can't go in Brawl, but again, his Walking King gadget's one of the best in the game, and a good Gray can just absolutely pop off and carry. So definitely recommend trying to master Gray. So next up as the 3rd best mythic brawler in the game right now, I went with Miko. So time and time again, I'm pushing Miko as one of the best brawlers in the game because he is a good Miko player, can absolutely pop off. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to get the right matchup, but you know, as a late pick in Power League, he's so insane literally everywhere. But when it comes down to ladder, you can pretty much play him everywhere as well, except for Brawl, because again, his biggest weakness is by far tanks because he doesn't have the DPS, but everywhere else, the right Miko can pop off. You just need that first super. But trust me, it's worthwhile kind of learning Miko because he's so strong. Now moving on to the second best mythic brawler in the game right now, I went with Charlie. So she started to creep back into the meta. She's nowhere near as toxic as before, but at the same time her super is just so cheesy. It's so easy to hit and it's a guaranteed kill pretty much every single time. Her Spider's gadget gives you a free lane control and she's just a go-to option everywhere. You can play Charlie everywhere. I've seen her being used in Shooting Star, for example. You can be played on every single map, every single situation, because her range is really strong as well. And she's of course one of the best counters to one of the best brawlers in the game in Fang, and also just hypercharge in general, because if they pop their hypercharge, you could just put them in the cocoon and see you later hypercharge. So yeah, Charlie is one of the best brawlers in the game still. Okay, so now moving into the best mythic brawler in the game right now. No surprises here whatsoever. It is Fang. So again, another brawler which isn't like dominant in Power League at the moment, but that's mainly because good players know how to counter him. But in ladder right now, he is just deleting everyone. You can see the pain on my face. Facing hypercharge Fang over and over again, it's just depressing because they could just be doing nothing for like a minute of the game, a minute 30, kind of like Mortis in a way, and then just randomly they'll just get this pop-off moment. But I think Fang is even more brain dead because you can just spam that super even harder and it'll just chain automatically. And of course the hypercharge is just broken as well, going through walls, getting the supercharge back through the popcorn. There's just so many broken things about Fang. You just must unlock him if you haven't got him already, and he already before these buffs was one of the most played brawlers anyway, so he must be pretty fun for the majority of the play base. For me, unfortunately, I don't like him, but you guys love him, so have fun with Fang on ladder because he's completely brain dead at the moment. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.